Hello everyone and welcome to my first Flesh and Blood Decktech. I just came back from World Tour Taipei where I got to play with the new set High Seas. I got to play with Puffin in Seal deck, opening a powerful Majestic in my pool, Cog, Works, Dovertail. Unfortunately, that was not good enough to make day 2 of the calling, but it was an amazing event. I played the world premiere. I got to see the new cards open in front of me. I got to see for the first time the Codex of Frailty reprint, which is super excited. The whole went nuts there. It was definitely an event that I love to play, and I can't wait to play that again in Montreal in September. But now let's talk about CC. Let's talk about a classic constructed. At the Battle Hardened Milan, I played Florian Midrange. I got a decent result. I top-hated the ProQuest Plus on Sunday with it, but we just got a ban list. Some cards got banned, namely in this deck, Germinate, as well as Scepter of Pain, but that was not in my version. The ban of Germinate definitely hurts the deck, but worry not, because in High Seas we got a specific card for the deck that is called Everblue Life. It's a blue block 3. Unfortunately, it doesn't put Germinate back on the bottom of your deck. That'd be too cool, but you can still do some shenanigans with it. Now let's talk about Florian. What is the deck trying to do? This is very simple Flesh and Blood. When I started playing Limited of this game, actually Florian was the hero I played and got me to the 10th place of calling Florence of Seal Deck and Draft. And this deck, well, it's not that much different than that. Your goal is to optimize your hand by blocking fully and then swinging back. With a single blue, you can deal as much as 4 or even 5 damage because of your powerful arm equipment, Grasp of the Arknight plus Reaping Blade. Florian wants you to decompose. This is a very important thing because once you put up to 4 cards in your exile zone that are Earth, you will turn on your incredibly power play such as Felon of the Crown and Plow Under. Those 2 Majestics are definitely what keeps the deck thick. The power level of Felon of the Crown probably has no comparison in the whole game. For just 3 mana, you get to attack for 8, you get to strip away a card from your opponent's hand, and you furthermore get to the second part of Florian, because Florian says if you have 8 Earth cards in your graveyard, now every time you make a rune chant, you make 2 of them. That means that your Grasp of the Arknight plus Reaping Blade turns your single blue card into 5 damage. And this is why this deck is so powerful, because in matchups where your opponent attacks you, like Syndra for example, you get to use 3 cards to block and 1 card to deal 5. And this recursive thing of just very well dealing with your opponent threats while keeping up the pressure is why Florian is so strong. This is my go-to deck at the moment after my beloved Aurora went to Living Legends. And this deck actually fits my gameplay a lot. In Magic, this is what I love to do. I love to play this like mid-range deck that can be defensive against the aggressive and aggressive against the combo, because you have powerful plays like Cadaver Stealing. This is a little bit of a proxy of Felon of the Crown. It doesn't have that ability that puts the card down, but it makes you decompose faster. You have a Rootbound Carapace in both yellow and red. You need these cards to get the first decompose going, so that once you play Felon of the Crown or Plow Under, they will attack for 8 or for 6. And these cards, very powerful, 0 mana, block for 4. Very, very good. The deck has a lot of blue cards. You need blues to turn the deck online, so sometimes your hand may be a little bit clunky. This deck is not as smooth as Aurora, where your hand is only red and you can convert every hand. Sometimes your hand doesn't convert. But you do have some blues that are still decent to cast. You have, of course, a Truce, which you can cast on turn 1 to grant the extra card. You have Condemned to Slaughter, which you can use in the mirror match to kill your opponent, Channel of the Millennium Tree. You have the very powerful Warmonger Diplomacy, which is very good against the Aelia, Dashayo, and the various decks that need to play both non-action and action. And now we even have Everbloom Life. Of course, Germinate, ban, is annoying. The deck really needed a strong second cycle, which is something that, not every deck in Flesh and Blood needs. This is a long deck, so as you know, whenever you play a card in Flesh and Blood, you pitch it, so it goes to the bottom of your deck. With Germinate, you are able to just pitch it in the early game, draw it in the late game, put it in the arsenal, and then Germinate for 12, or cast Germinate for something like 8, and with the powerful ability of Florian, you are able to make tens of rune chant, gaining life, and then killing your opponent with one single swing. Well, now that's not a thing anymore, so you need to accrue your value turn by turn, slowly trading their damage for your damage while you get ahead in it. You have some more powerful cards that are able to uptrade in damage. You have Bramble Spark, which can deal just 4 damage for the cost of 0. And again, this comes in, this and Cadaver Stealing are cards that come in whenever you need to be aggressive against the slower deck. But they're not good against the aggro deck because they only block 2. This is very important for Florian, that your deck blocks, because you're going to be blocking a lot. So you need to get in the mindset that this deck needs to block with 2 to 3 cards every single turn. Because every single blue in your hand will turn into at least 4 damage with simply going Grasp plus Reaping Blade. So every time your opponent attacks you, you have to think, am I dealing more damage by blocking, or am I dealing more damage by attacking? So for example, should I keep my Command and Conquer plus blue, or should I block with Command and Conquer and then send the blue for 4 damage? Well, if you play Command and Conquer, you attack for 6, so that's 2 card 6, but if you block for 3 and then send 4, that's a 2 card 7. So this deck is very much all about math, and you have to think about that, and turn after turn you'll be able to leverage that little damage. Of course, in the description you can also find the sponsors of the show. We have Ultimate Guard, which makes these beautiful katana sleeves. I'm using the white one in this deck. And TCG Player, where you can already purchase the High Seas card in pre-order and get your Everbloom Life together. Of course, I also want to shout out Legend Story Studios. I met with James White in Taipei. He's so passionate about the game. I really felt the love that he has in the game. I have a lot of things planned for you. If you love Flesh and Blood, make sure to subscribe to the channel, bookmark this channel, and stay tuned for the next classic constructed videos that I'm gonna shoot in this room. Lots of great news coming up, stay tuned. Another card that I want to talk to you about is some less usual choices that I have in my deck. The first one is Erase Face. This is a block 2 for 6, very much below rate, but has a very powerful ability. Whenever it deals damage to the opponent, you take away their class and their talent. That means that in the mirror match, your opponent will not be able to decompose, will not be able to cast successfully a Felon of the Crown or Plow Under. And while that does not seem great, sometimes you really turn off their plan by sending an Erase Phase. Against Syndra, they definitely don't want to block. And if you send an Erase Phase, they will not be able to reanimate the dagger that turn. And again, you are doing a little bit below rate because you're spending a yellow or a blue to deal 6 damage instead of blocking with a 3 and sending a 4. So you're below 1 point, but making them not be able to reanimate the daggers may be worth more than 1 point. Another nice addition in this deck is the red Autumn's Touch. This is a card that blocks 3 and decomposes most of the time, but you're also able to send in that attack in matchups where it's hard to do so, like against Kano, for example. Needing attack is very, very important. An additional choice that I have is Dread Sight, which is an alternative weapon that you bring against Jarl, which can destroy your grasp and will take away your plan, and against Verdance, where you don't want them to gain life. We also have Channel of the Millennium Tree over Channel of Mount Heroic. Channel of Mount Heroic can be very good with Ranger Swarm, but Channel of the Millennium Tree can really close the game out of nowhere. And it's an Earth block 3, which is very strong since you block with it in the first or second turn, and then you decompose, and that is really something to not overlook in this deck. Very, very important, those Earth Block 3. Let's talk about the equipment. Florian is a Runeblade hero. Runeblade has by far the strongest fridge in the format. You get to play the probably most powerful equipment of the game, Grasp of the Arc Knight, a 3-block that sticks around and it's your entire plan. I love this card. I was playing this card in Aurora as well. You have Face Purgatory. I opened this card, if you remember, in the unboxing that we did on this channel. This card is able to make an unbelievable amount of value when you block with an attack and a non-attack. You get to make your opponent discard a card. You draw a card. This card can make up to 8 value. There's really not that many good equipment as this. And speaking of huge value, you have Barskin. This card can block for so much. Make sure to block this only when you're online with Florian. You have to block with this, and the non-action card, if you have 4 cards in your graveyard, the Barskin is gonna pump that non-action card for 1. But if you have 8 cards in your graveyard, Barskin is gonna pump that card for 2. I blocked an Aelia arrow full with just Barskin plus 2 non-blocks, since each of those was 5 and Barskin was 1, so I blocked for 11 with just 2 cards in my hand plus an equipment. This card is unbelievable, and that's why you're playing this over Faendal Spring Tunic. The legs is unfortunately the worst part of our hero. We have the common Well-Grounded, which is very strong against Syndra since it can prevent that Flick Knives, and it's your slot to play Arcane Barrier with Null-Rune Boots. You have more Arcane Barrier with the Delictic Carapace, and finally you have Plume of the Evergrown, another common that in the matchups where they don't attack you, you turn this card into a Felon of the Crown. If you have this card in play in your arena and you have Felon of the Crown in your graveyard, you can turn any 2 cards blue into an attack with Felon of the Crown, which is very, very important in matchups like the Mirror Match. Let's now talk about sideboarding. In the descriptions, you'll find the full sideboard plan with the February link. But I want to tell you about the most important matchups, how to behave. First and most importantly is Syndra, which is perceived to be a bad matchup, but actually with the way I approach the matchup, I very rarely lose to it. The most important thing is to block their middle ground. So for example, if they have a 4 cards hand, you want to block on 2 and 3, because the key is to make them not draw a card with Mask of the Momentum. Mask of the Momentum wants them to deal 3 damage in a row. But if you block the first one, they'll be able to flick knives at you to keep the chain going. If you block the second one, they need something more. They need a pump spell or they need a throw dagger. Otherwise, their link is stopped. So you don't want to block the first attack ever. You always want to block the second and the third one. If they have only 3 cards because you fell in of the crown, then maybe you can also block the first one. But it is very important that you do that every single turn. I very rarely make my opponent draw a card with Mask of the Momentum, and you importantly need to give your equipments. So for example, Grasp of the Arc Knight is important to give whenever your opponent gives the chance, like an Ignite, so that the next time there's gonna be a 1 and you'll be able to block a 4 fully with a 3+1. Faceless Purgatory. Now this is very interesting against Syndra. Not always they give you a window to do it, but for example, if they have 1 card in hand and they cast Blazing Headlong with just 1 card in hand, then that might be correct to send your Faceless Purgatory plus 2 cards, especially if you don't have a red and you look to draw blue. Remember, it's super important that you keep the pressure up. It's super important that you decompose quickly with your Carapace and then send in big attacks with your Felling. If you don't do that, if you don't decompose quickly, if you don't turn Florian on early, they'll be able to accrue more damage because they are more consistent at dealing damage. So you need to do that massive advantage of damage. You need to side out all your 2s. Again, in the Cyber Plan you'll see it, but block 2, you don't want ever to block 2. If you draw a raised face, you must attack with this card. Let's talk about another important matchup, the Mirror Match. Florian is the most played hero, and the way this matchup goes is a math match. You will be drawing most of your deck, so it's important that you optimize your hand better than they do. Not utilize the arsenal too much, because Plow Under is a very important tool. If you can just block and then send back, it's the most efficient thing to do. If your opponent gives you tempo, then that's where cards like Swarming Gloomveil and Enlightened Strike come up a lot, because they have Go Again. They can make you do 2 attacks at the same time. Even Trot Along, which is most of the time just a blue block, can be cast, and then you can attack with both your Reaping Blade and another attack. Cards like Cadaverous Stealing are extremely important because they will make you decompose faster. Since you side out your yellow Carapace, you have less decompose. It's very important to keep in your deck either yellow Carapace or Cadaverous Stealing. Some people play Summer's Fall as a way to kill the Channel of the Millennium 3. I decided not to play it. I have Condemned to Slaughter as a way to kill it. Not the best way to kill it, but I have one. And I have a Raise Face for the Syndra matchup. So that's kind of the slot. I decided to care more about Syndra than the mirror match. But overall, this is a matchup of math. You want to use your Plume of the Everflow to get back that Falcon of the Crown, to deal more damage to the opponent, to compress them until you drop the Channel of the Millennium 3, they don't have enough Arcane Barrier to block it, and you win the game that way. Back in the days, in this matchup, Germinate Second Cycle was super important. Now we don't have that anymore, so you need to keep your pressure up, you need to keep the math numbers up. Another hero that is very good right now, although it may go to Living Legends very soon, is Aelia. And the matchup against Aelia is Zwingy. They have a card called Dreadbore, which turns your defense reaction off. This is why I like to side out the Rootbound Carapace. I still keep the red Carapace and the Shelter of the Storm because you need some in case they don't have the Dreadbore. But otherwise, that has been working for me. Once again, this is a matchup math. You need to block every time you can, because sometimes they'll be able to have Dominate and you want to be able to block. So this is very important that you do so. If your opponent gives you the chance to use the Face Purgatory attacking with a Bolt and Shot, take it. Face Purgatory is an insane card against them, but sometimes they won't be able to make you have a good use for it. This is another matchup where we are the defensive, so it's important to keep the same game plan where we block as much as we can and send in attack. And the consistent plan of sending attack is important. A very good matchup for Florian, and one of the reasons to play it, it is a very good matchup against Assassin. Now, maybe not against Nu in particular, but that deck is going to Living Legends very soon. But against Arachne Marionette and Sleep Through the Cracks, we are great. Once again, we cybered out all our block 2, we have full defense mode, all our creatures block 3, all of our D-React are in the deck. You want to block and send an attack. Your math is much better than theirs, so just play accordingly and you will have a great time in this matchup. Don't be fooled by the various pump spells they can have. If you have a D-React, put it in the arsenal, very good there, and just send in attack constantly. You wanna get that Decompose going, you wanna Felon of the Crown then, and you wanna turn every blue into a 4. They will exile your top of the deck naturally with various ways, so they will turn on Florian for you. Sometimes with Florian, the best way to decompose is to get 2 Earth at the first time, 3 Earth at the second time, and 3 Earth at the third time. But against Assassin, you can easily do 3 Earth on the first and second, because they may just randomly banish 2 of your Earth card, and you turn on Florian ability just with 2 Decompose. And that's about it. Again, in the descriptions, you'll find the full Cyber map so that you can go to your Armory, to your Nationals, and do great with Florian Midrange without having to think about sideboarding, which is definitely something that I enjoyed a lot the first time I came to Flesh and Blood. Again, thank you so much to the sponsors of the show, Ultimate Guard TCG and Legend Story Studios, to sponsor this video. I wish you the best of the luck in your Nationals and whatever events you go. Subscribe to this channel because we are going to be playing some Classic Constructed here on Mengu's Workshop soon.